We are recording now and we are live. Well, technically live for those who are following us. Hello, everyone. Hello, dear friends. Hello, dear teachers. Hello, dear students. Hello, dear internet. And welcome to the fifth episode of Alumni Spotlight hosted by the Mark Twain International School. And today, my guest is none other than our friend Tudor Volonciu. Hello, Tudor, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, Hrant. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, and thank you for taking some time in these crazy times to join our session of Q&A. And before we kick in with the questions that I have cooked for you, and just see how you've been doing lately, because it's been no less than 11 years since you left Mark Twain, and almost 12 years since I did, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, is it?
No,
No, actually it's
actually,
10 years for you.
yep. When
Yeah.
you told me about this meeting is when it actually hit me that it's my 10-year anniversary soon.
Yeah. Well, we're getting old. Spoiler alert for everyone. You're all gonna be here, so just deal with it.
Yep.
uh Tudor, well, I spoiled it. He's part of the class of 2011. uh, and he studied international studies at Marymount Manhattan College. Then he went to law school at Titu Maiorescu University in Bucharest. Then he went through some internship work in Manhattan, and then he ended up working in the legal field in Bucharest. And sooner or
Short
later,
time.
short time, well, you still did it, so we got to mention it. And then you ended up opening your own firm called Volt Film, and we're not going to tell any details about it till we get to that special question. So as you can see, that's one journey from Manhattan to Bucharest, from law to film. So
Yeah,
this is interesting.
was definitely not what I was expecting when I finished high school, but it wasn't a way what I was hoping.
Well, obviously we all have our own journey, so it's really nice to see someone going through some like having certain contrasting stops toward your journey, and then getting to something that gives you the financial and emotional and whatever you want to call it joy. So let's get kicking with our first question, Tudor. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Okay, we're going back to the roots. Can you please share one of your dearest memories of your school years at Mark Twain International School? Whatever comes to
Hmm.
your mind.
Th- There are many dear memories, Hrant. I mean, what we went through in the drama club, because for many years it was just you and me, buddy. We were the only guys there. And trying to convince our fellow colleagues to come now to our drama club so Joanna can stop playing boy roles was one of them.
Yeah.
But I think my dearest memory is actually my first memory, and it isn't with Mark Twain, it's with Kuala Kindergarten. Yes, kids, I'm one of the old ones. And it was when I first got there and I saw Mihai Cantor playing with a truck. And spoiler alert, that was my first interaction with kids my age when I got to Kuala Kindergarten. So I just went and took his toy truck for myself. We ended up fighting that day, as 3-year-olds would fight, mind you. And from that day onward, we stayed the best of buddies till this day.
Okay, I'm so happy. Like, this is the most surprising answer that I've ever got. And for those of you who are following, because obviously we know the insights, but before the school was called the Mark Twain International School, it was called, obviously before becoming like transforming into a school, it was a kindergarten, and it was called Koala Kindergarten. And yes, Tudor is one of the OG people of the Koala Kindergarten. So Tudor was technically part of the first generation zero of Mark Twain International School. So thank you for reminding us that detail. So now you guys discovered some new information. So before being called Mark Twain International School, the kindergarten was called Koala Kindergarten. What a cute thing. Who doesn't love koalas? And yeah, pretty much that's how things were at our drama class, because I was gonna mention that one of the things we shared with Tudor after graduating Mark Twain is obviously we were happy to be part of the students jury at the Mark Twain International School's theater festival. And yeah, I was
That was
really
fun.
happy to catch up with you and the rest of the kids that joined that jury board for the festival. Now that we went through the kindergarten process, it's really funny. Every single time I just throw a question at the guests, they end up preparing the next question. So this is me going with the second one. What's your relationship status now, 10 years later, with your classmates?
I mean, with with the class I ended up finishing 12th grade with, I kept close relationships with some of them. I have to admit, I have no idea about others. Uh, Especially with the separation between IB and the normal curriculum, sometimes we wouldn't actually see each other for weeks while we were in the same school. So, but I'm happy to say that my best friends, even today, are back from Mark Twain years, even if they didn't end up finishing that school. Matias, Tudor Shandor, Mihai Cantor, Skadi, Sasha, and of course, my Robert, Andre, Ivan. I
Mm-hmm.
kept contact with a bunch of them. So I'm happy to say that my closest friends are from Mark Twain.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. And I think this is an opportunity for those of you who haven't been in contact with Tudor since you guys finished high school. This is a bridge to reconnect with each other. So I'm really happy to see that there's another alumni that's considering their high school friends their best friends. Well, I don't think it's a spoiler that the situation is the same for me. So I totally understand that, and I'm really happy that you're still in keeping touch in like you're in touch with your friends from high school.
Yeah,
My
we should organize something this year, which reminds me. Yeah,
Well, it's really hard to do that taking in consideration that we're dealing with a pandemic. Because
the year just started. We'll see later.
to be honest, everybody was like, because for a moment I thought that it's been like 12 years since we graduated, and then you corrected me and I realized that no, it's just 11. But 2020 was so wild that everybody was like, oh, we should do the 10-year anniversary reunion with the teachers and literally everyone that happened to pass through our classroom since we went to school. And I really hope that we don't get to cross another year off without celebrating our 10-year anniversary, although we keep in touch with pretty much almost everyone. So for us it's almost an anniversary every single day of the week.
That's great. That's great to know.
Okay, now going on with the third question that I have prepared for you, and it would be, could you share one thing you enjoyed a lot during your study years in Manhattan, and then share one thing that you really enjoyed studying in Bucharest because you got to experience both of these these educational journeys, let's say.
Mm. Well, uh, in Manhattan, I guess I really enjoyed the fact that at least the teachers I had, the professors I had in college, my relationship with most of them would be similar to what relationship we had with our teachers at Mark Twain. It was less of a stricter one, as I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you remember, and they they tried to treat us like peers. It helped that a lot of my professors weren't that old in Manhattan either, and the subjects we covered were very interesting. So, because international studies is just an umbrella term for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing I really liked in college in America. We were a small class as well, like in Mark Twain. It felt personal. It felt just like high school in a way, but geared up. And going to Bucharest, the law school, was a bit of a culture shock afterwards. Yeah. Uh, I guess what I appreciated the most there was that I actually learned more discipline.
Okay.
Exams and studying, and no room for compromise. And yeah, it was the first step in discipline that I actually needed to try and find a good thing about the college in Bucharest.
Well, if you think about it that way, do you think that it's also because you said international studies? Because if I think of from my own perspective, when you say international studies, as you said, it covers a lot of fields. But when you talk about law school, because that's what you did in Bucharest, I think there's also a strictness between the fields.
It is,
Because I
which
feel
is
like, yeah.
which is funny because in law so much can be established on interpretation. So on the one side, they demanded very strict adherence to the law, and on the other side, the only way to practically be a good lawyer was to be as flexible as you can be with the law. So yeah, I learned more out of law school than I did in that regard.
Okay, that's interesting. So, well, I'm really happy you answered both of them because I'm pretty sure there are students at Mark Twain and probably not only at Mark Twain that are now watching this interview and they're thinking maybe they're considering to study law school or international studies in Bucharest or in New York or whatever. They're thinking to approach these two fields of work, and it's really helpful to give them as much insight of the process as we can so they can get, because it's different when you hear it from I don't know, commercials or campaigns run by the universities, but it's different when you hear it from someone that has been in your own shoes in your own school and has experienced that whole process on their own skin. So yeah, as much as you presented, you pretty much preferred the educational approach that you have encountered in Manhattan.
I did. And as a last thing with that, even though I did enjoy what I learned in Manhattan, I believe my biggest teacher was the actual city itself. I think that New York is a very special place. It's the melting pot of all civilizations, and at least for what major I was taking, the city itself was the best teacher I could have.
Okay, this is not a paid promotion for the New York City.
No, 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 no. I mean, it was what, 6 years ago. A lot can change. I haven't been back there in almost 6 years.
Well, probably things have changed. The leadership changed. At least the
New York,
leadership.
New York isn't America. That was something I learned very quickly. America is it's just this huge place, and New York is not really America. There's in all my years there, I've met many more foreigners than I've met actual native New Yorkers. It's just it's just a melting pot of all civilizations. So no, with different leadership, I'm sure New York is fine continuously.
Yeah, my first impression when I landed in New York, it was that it felt big, like it was. I've been previously to Beijing, and I knew how
Wow.
that you're tiny compared to what's happening around you felt, but compared to what I've like. It was magical, but you felt tiny. Yet that energy of you can do everything was there, and I think you can confirm.
Yes, yeah, I haven't been to Beijing, and I think it's actually even bigger and more populated than New York. But yeah, my first year dorm was on the 22nd floor of a skyscraper. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a bit of a culture shock, and it was a small skyscraper at that. But I
Yeah.
was on the 22nd floor, and that was the highest I've ever been in a building ever at that time. And I was like, "What?" I had just landed in New York, and that's the first thing I saw. The first thing that happened to me, living on the 22nd floor of a building. I could see almost down to downtown.
Well, Alicia Keys said it that the concrete jungle is real. So pretty much I can
It
totally
was.
see your point of view. Um, and now that you mentioned your study fields, I think we could get to more work related topics. And my question would be, I've seen that you worked, and I think at one point you started your own firm in Bucharest in the legal field, and then I think you worked with the lawyer's
It was
office
it was a
firm.
flexible period. I wasn't a lawyer, but I helped in the law. I helped with
Mhm,
lawyers. I helped with paralegal stuff. The firm I made, its purpose was mostly educational,
mhm.
conferences and such. But I ever since I finished law school, I worked around the law, to put it, not in the negative sense, but I worked in administrative and educational roles in the legal domain, not in the legal
Yeah,
domain directly.
so more of a management approach to the field. And I'm really curious, how did you decide to switch from the legal field to the cinema field and the production field? Like how did it happen?
It was well, maybe people who remember me in high school, I think will remember that I always wanted to work in cinematography, and finishing high school, I got scared because I didn't want to die of starvation. So I just decided to do the next best thing. And I come from a family of lawyers. Law seems to be the best choice, and it wasn't for me. No, it simply wasn't for me. It took me a few years to realize that I'd rather be happy than rich.
Well,
I know it sounds corny. I know they say
no,
it in
I
all
can
Hollywood
totally
movies,
relate.
but yeah, and it was a massive change. I applied to UNATC, and following that the summer I realized that
Mhm.
I'd rather be happy than rich, and I failed getting into UNATC, and then I think that was one of those fated moments. Andre Ivan contacted me just a few days after I had failed getting into UNATC. He was becoming an actor at UNATC at that point.
Mhm.
And he told me about this movie that was being produced and that they might have an extra slot open. And they took me in as an intern, as a trainee AD. And after I did that movie, Dragonheart 5, Elena Bonham Carter plays as a dragon. Uh, After that, I got in the industry. I mean, I was lucky because my education didn't prepare me for that.
Well, I, I think that's the whole fun of it, to just
It
trust the
is.
process. And it's really nice to see to hear how you got there. And I think to add in some details for those following, Andre Ivan, I don't know if you remember, based on what he said at the beginning of our session, Andre Ivan is one of his colleagues, from one of his classmates. So it's really nice to hear that colleagues and friends are like trying to create opportunities for their friends too. And yes, I totally confirm your passion for cinematography, and just theater in general, and performing it. And it's really fun to hear that you ended up switching the position of being from being in the front of the camera to being behind the camera. So it's and I can relate with the whole idea of deciding to go with something that inspires you and makes you happy, because I think that most of the time a lot of parents try to push their kids toward a more secure future from the financial point of view. and thinking that they're proposing something that's more realistic and doable. But what you guys that are following now and listening to us, you have to always keep in mind that when you love what you're doing and you do it with passion, it's literally impossible for success and money to not follow you in the end. So it's just stick to your own guts, even when sometimes it feels like maybe you're not on the right or on the expected path. Do you agree, Tudor?
It took me a few years to realize that. I'm hoping that future generations can do it quicker.
Well, 3 years isn't that much. So I think you ended up pretty safe on the time span of getting your career set. And how,
And just
yeah, yeah,
just to
please.
finish on what you said, I think that it's okay to change your mind. Exactly that. Back when I finished high school, me and many people thought that whatever you choose in college, that's your life path. Nope, nope. Life is very flexible,
Yeah,
and it's
amen to
and
that.
it's no, and it's okay and no, normal to change your mind. To put it this way.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times we create this titanic pressure on ourselves that we always have to stick with it. What are people going to say? Oh, you invested time and you invested money in your education in a certain field. And if you did that, you have to stick to it. And then, as you mentioned, you at one point you realize that that's not the thing you resonate with. And you have to just let it go and move on because sooner or later you're gonna just do it, and if you're gonna do it sooner or later, just do it sooner if possible.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I totally understand that feeling of shifting or slightly, or in your case totally shifting your paths when it comes to when it came to your career. And can you tell us more about your first experience on working on your first movie? Because you
Sure.
mentioned I imagine it was a huge shock and probably you were super excited.
Yes, my first day at the office, we burned down a house. It was a very fun first day at the office.
I think you
That
have a
was my first
photo
day on
on
the movie
social.
set.
Did you take a photo of that? I think you did take a photo of that exploding
Yep,
or burning.
yep, yep.
Because
So, and they didn't tell me that. So we were filming in Rishnov. I had just gotten there, and as a trainee AD, I just did what everyone told me, which was basically babysitting the actors most of the time.
okay, because I was gonna ask what did your position in the whole process mean, and so you were
Uh,
babysitting.
uh, okay, yeah. It might come as a surprise to many people, but a movie set is like an army boot camp more than a creative bohemian place. You've got usually a very strict time limit. You have hundreds of people doing hundreds of things all to make a scene. And you need discipline. Yeah, everything needs to run like clockwork in order for the movie to be done in a timely and cost efficiently fashion. So as I said, as a trainee, my job was just to do what everyone else told me to do: bring coffees, keep an eye on the actors, uh, attend to their every need, to put it this way, on set. And then I got to see a house burn down. They told me that about midway through the filming day, because I could see there were pipes being put into the house, big pipes with holes in them, and they were attaching massive butane gases to those pipes. I was like, "What are you doing? What's this?" Because as a trainee, I didn't know the script because it was a risk in my case. What's that? We're burning down this house. What? I mean, aren't they just gonna use VFX for that? Or no, it's cheaper to just burn it down. Okay. Tudor, make
Whatever
sure
works.
everyone's. I was like, okay, Tudor, you just make sure everyone stays like 200 meters away from the building. and enjoy the fireworks. So yeah, my first day on the office cemented my love for this project. It's never a dull day, and I'm really happy for that.
Well, I don't think any like okay, I'm not gonna just put everyone in the same pot, but I don't think many of us can say that on their first day at the office, they got to see a house burn down during and it was all organized. So that's something
It took the
fun.
firefighters 2 hours to actually put it out after we were done filming it. So it was a very efficient burn.
Well, I think I'm really happy that I got to ask this question because we often watch a movie and we're like, oh, it looks so fun and probably everything is so fun. Well, it is fun, but there's a lot of work that's going behind the cameras. And everything, as you mentioned, isn't that easy breezy fun. Oh, everybody's just enjoying and having a chit chat while 2 or 3 or 20 actors are in front of the camera. So and I think it's really interesting because you did mention discipline and during your law school years,
And
and
that was
it's
cemented on the movie set. That was, let's say, the army I'd never done, to put it this way.
yeah, because
It,
I was gonna like make like that comparison of having worked in a field such as the legal field that's very strict and organized, and then switching to this new path in your life, and then finding another field that seemed maybe super fun, but it is super fun yet very strict in order to make everything work. Well, that's one hell of a first day at work. I wish my first days at work would have been so exciting as yours was during that day.
and most days are interesting. But I've had to prepare and choreograph medieval battles. Well, not alone, thankfully, but I had to carry a lot of fake snow. I've had to
Fake
prepare
snow?
fake snow, yeah, but Christmas Prince 2 on Netflix. They filmed it in February in Sinaya,
Okay.
and the logic being that in Sinaya there should be snow on February. There wasn't. So I worked at the art department back then, and our job was to make it snow. And when there isn't real snow, the cheapest, most efficient thing to use is polystyrene,
Okay.
which doesn't weigh too much, but we carried them in massive chunks, and sweeping them up after the filming was done was a nightmare, as I'm sure you can imagine, because there was just tiny, tiny bits of polystyrene everywhere.
Okay, so what did you guys use? Like, how was there like a vacuum-ish cleaning? Because I imagine it was all over the
Brooms,
place.
brooms, big brooms.
Okay. Well, that's at least you probably skipped cardio day at the gym.
Oh no, I'm so happy because this is not a work from home job. It's not even an office job at all. I mean, my office days tend to be few and just in pre-production. It's an active job. My record was almost 20 kilometers walked one day in one filming day, 12 hours.
I
Filming
think
days,
at
like I
least
said, are 12.
your phone was just clapping back and the way to go, Tudor. You just surpassed the 22,000 steps a day. So, well, it's really
I get my workout at work, thankfully.
yeah, I think this conversation will inspire a lot of people to reconsider their second or first or third options of working in this field because
It's you need to like it in order to act. You need this is not the kind of job you can just do on a compromise, to put it this way, like a corporate job or
mm-hmm,
something like that. You need to like what you do, or schedules are tough. Working conditions can be rough sometimes. We filmed in blizzards, we filmed in rainstorms. The show must go on. So you need to like this in order to actually, and if you like it, it's the best job you can have. But if you don't like it, no, you won't last long.
Well, I think it's pretty much the same with most of the jobs, but obviously this one really requires a lot of love and physical just dealing with a lot of physical things too, from the weather to obviously cleaning fake snow in Sinaya. I don't think
And
that's
cleaning real snow in Brasov in another movie because it snowed when it didn't have to snow. So yes, cleaning snow.
yeah. Did they add these things in the job description when they're looking for people?
No, it's usually all hands on deck. I mean, depending on conditions, during the blizzard, even the director would pitch in with the shovel just to get it quicker. So it's a flexible job regardless of what your actual position is.
And as you can say, as you're mentioning, I realize it's a huge team effort. So
It is. It
for
is.
those
Going
of
filming outside of Bucharest feels just like going on camping trips back when we were in high school in excursi. It's the same vibe, to put it this way.
well, that's some. I think we all miss that, taking it like just looking around. That's the world we're dealing with currently. I think we all miss that part of our lives, and we're really happy that at least some of us get to experience that taste of the reality we were once used to. And I'm pretty sure sooner or later we're gonna get back to campings and just going outdoors and sharing hugs. I think we all miss sharing hugs with people. Well, some of us don't, but some of us do. The pandemic isn't really helping.
The actors get the hug and only in front of the camera. We have an entire department in the past year. We have an entire department now, COVID compliance team, whose only job is to tell us not to get close to each other, wash our hands, keep the masks on. I feel sorry for them.
Well, I totally, well, the TV is constantly screaming at us to not do that. So I do imagine that it was
They're
really,
like
really,
drill sergeants.
well, well, it's important because I do imagine that if
It
they
is.
weren't doing that, you would have ended up, I don't know, if you would have had
It
someone that
is.
was sick, you would have stopped the entire production just because someone
It
hugged.
is. And it's testament to, first of all, our will to keep working and our collective professionalism and a bit of luck that throughout this pandemic, I've actually had production. I had work. I've had productions. They didn't get shut down, and our infection rating was minimal. So I'm actually very thankful for that.
Well, that's just amazing because I mean, it took a lot of. I can imagine that it took a lot of effort to keep your business still running, and now that we've entered this field of your professional life, my one of my almost final questions would be, what fuels your love towards your current job?
It allows me to see the complex process of creation
Mm-hmm.
with my own two eyes. And don't get me wrong, I love theater, I love the arts, but in movies, we get to come closest to what we perceive as reality in our
Mm-hmm.
creation. And just seeing every single process from putting on the makeup, putting on the costumes, making sure the lights are in the right angle, making sure the amount of water in the actor's cup is just how much it was in the previous scene. We have a special person dedicated just for that. He's called a script supervisor. I do not want that job. And seeing all of these steps for 2 seconds of actual screen time it's magical. Just seeing what we're capable of creating when we want to recreate reality. That's my love for it, and seeing that basically everyone who works in this field does it because he loves it, not because it's a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good atmosphere. It's what I like. It's physically taxing. I get little sleep when I have projects, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, That's really really inspiring, and I think that's one way we should all look at our everyday jobs, because obviously you're working in your own field, you're creating the magic behind the cameras for everything to look flawless in front of the cameras, and behind that glass we look at when we just turn on Netflix. So I don't think a lot of us understand how much work it's being put in to produce anything, from, as you mentioned, the 2 second scene with a glass that has to be at the exact amount when you start, when you say
Yep,
roll.
yep. The infamous Starbucks cup scene in Game of Thrones. That was a script supervisor who got fired, I'm sure.
Well, I was gonna mention that there are a lot of times we end up on YouTube and we're like, oh, did you see those bloopers or these minor mistakes that have been sneaked in different movies? And I don't think I mean, obviously there's someone that's taking care of all these details, but measuring the amount of water in a glass.
It's a script supervisor, and if it's a big project, there can be multiple ones. They usually walk around with a lot of papers, a lot of pens, just writing down every single little detail from the script. Because the director's preoccupation is the big picture, not
Mhm.
the small tiny details. But there is a negative to all of this. It ruined movie watching for me.
Because you knew everything and how it all got to that
No,
process.
not just movies I worked on, just movies in general. In the last few years, I've been working a lot in the extras department as an extras coordinator. And I pay more attention to what the background is doing than what the actors are doing these days in movies, just to see if they were behaving. It's a professional flaw which I can't get rid of now. I can't enjoy movies like a regular person.
That's, I don't know if that's fun or if that's sad, because it sounds more sad now that you mentioned it. But I mean, I totally understand that, because there was recently a photo on the internet with someone just during a public speaking or some statements at the US, I don't know which government department, and there was like this bigger picture with that person making that statement in front of the press, and it was like, this is what normal people see and this is what designers see. And there was the background text and it was written government, and one of, in the middle of the word there was a double spacing, and no one could have missed that unless you were working from in the design field. So I totally relate to what you're saying, because now, because you're working in the field, you're paying attention to details that probably not the average person wouldn't notice, because we don't know what's like the entire process behind it. So it's really really helpful, and I think a lot of people, as I probably already 2 or 3 times have mentioned, that are thinking of getting to work in your field or aspiring to work in that field are really really excited now, and I hope you're all googling universities that you want to get to.
Well, here's the funny thing. I meant this job. It's more of a guild style job than a
Hmm.
university. You learn by doing. Everyone I talked with on set told me that I don't need to go to an attaché to work or to even become a director. It,
Hmm.
of course, the education helps. Don't get me wrong; it does help.
Yeah.
It lets you put your foot in the door. But if you're a case like I am, and you simply want to start doing, or you already have a college degree, or if you're in a hurry, it's you just learn by doing. Your first project is as an apprentice, and if you're good at what you do, you'll get other projects.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, because compared to other works of field, yours is much more practical. Like, you have to do it to learn how to do it. You have to just start somewhere. But obviously, going to like attending a university will give you a base a solid ground to stand on. But as you mentioned in your own case, I mean, if you look back at your entire journey, you already got that base, like educational base, also in your high school years, because you've been
Totally agree.
constantly, I don't think there was a year since you went to, well, at least starting from your fourth grade, because that's when I met you. You were in fourth grade. I was in fifth grade because I came to Mark Twain in fifth grade. I don't think you missed a single year since fourth grade without being on the stage. So
Uh, Last year, 12th
uh,
grade.
the IB years, we're not counting those unless you did go for. Did you do theater? Did you
I did
choose
higher level
drama?
even.
Oh yeah,
I did
join the club.
drama higher level.
Same, same,
But
and it was anything but what I expected.
yes, very theoretical. I wasn't expecting that either. So theoretical, but I'm thankful for the IB. I truly am, particularly since it let me finish a 4-year degree in New York in 3 years.
See,
I got the credits, and funny thing is, in international relations, we would have a big chunk of credits dedicated to a foreign language. And in America, Romanian is a foreign language. So I exploited a little loophole. I went to NYU. I took a Romanian aptitude exam designed for foreigners.
mm-hmm.
Of course, I aced it.
You
And
sneaky.
hey, I managed to chop down 1 year in my
I
degree.
totally
That was
understand. I get your point. I
the
agree
other
with your
half.
decision.
The other half came from IB credits, though. I was pleasantly surprised to see that in America, the IB was recognized because not many people had heard of it there.
And yeah, because I know we were always talking about IB, and most of the times there were countries that were in a very gray zone when it came to the international baccalaureate, because they had their own system that was working and required for universities. So yeah, cheers to IB yet again, because
Exactly.
it was really, 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 I think it was 11th or 10th grade the last time we worked uh, together at
My
drama
10th
course.
grade, your 11th grade. But what did we do?
I
Hmm.
think it was something we did with obviously with Ionuț and it was called Arta, and I
Yes,
I think you were, I don't remember, it was you or I, the friend that I think I got the painting and you were
you
the
got the
friend.
painting, and I was the bitter one.
Yeah, you were shocked that I got I was so excited over literally a
Yes.
blank white canvas. And
Although my
yeah,
favorite one is our first one, the one where we won the national prize. I was fourth grade. O
I,
noapte furtunoasă.
yeah, we have to give like this, that's credit to Daniela Minoiu for being awesome.
That
And
was my favorite.
I think when we went to George
Constantin.
Constantinescu, Constantin, yeah, my bad, sorry, George Constantin Theater Festival for youngsters. I remember that when we went to the auditions, it was our scene. We were in, I think we were in the opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were, right?
Uh, Maybe. No, you weren't. You were in the opening scene with Tudor Sandor, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
yeah,
The
yeah.
officer. I was Kiriak. I came in a bit later.
I was Jupânu Dumitrache, and I remember that iaca, niște papucii, niște scârța pe hârtie. I think I won't ever be able to forget these lines because they marked us so profoundly in the best way possible. And for me, it was my first year ever being on stage and getting to experience that. And I will forever be grateful to Mark Twain International School for giving that opportunity, because I remember once we were on that stage and we attended that festival, everything changed forever, like forever. And winning that festival's grand prize was probably the biggest motivation point we've ever needed to pursue. I think for you too, because I think it fueled and it fed that creative artistic side of you just as it did to me. So it's really funny. Sometimes I when I write these questions down, I don't necessarily, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to uh, mastermind what people to say and to put in different details of our educational system at Mark Twain. But it's really it's funny because I don't even get to ask a question towards a certain direction, but and then you guys, everyone that's joining, end up saying all the things that maybe I thought of, but I was like, I'm not gonna mention IB this time, for example. And then the guest comes over, we start talking, and it's literally impossible not to mention these things because they were literally life changing. And I hope people that are watching now get to see our perspective as people that went through this journey, went to college, graduated, now they're working in different fields. And everyone coming back keeps on mentioning how important those years were for us. And just stick to them, enjoy the process, be a sponge, just absorb everything you can around you. Do you agree, Tudor?
Learn to learn. That's the most important thing. Learn to learn, because more than any other class or activity, the IB taught us how to study.
Yeah.
That's not something that they actually teach you in school, is it?
And so it's interesting because most of the time we or at least for me, when before we got to that IB starting point, everything we managed to learn, or in general the way we looked at education, is memorizing and just sticking to some standard opinions that have been projected by others before us, and learning other people's opinions on certain subjects. And by the time we got to the IB, to the diploma project for the International Baccalaureate, I realized that the perspective changed a lot. It wasn't about what others thought. It was about what we thought about certain things. So it changed from putting the spotlight on other people's opinion and changing that spotlight on us. Have your own voice. We want to hear your own voice. Tell us what you think matters. And I think that's one of
That was
the,
important.
yeah, yeah, it was really, really, really uh, yeah, I would have loved to go through that experience again, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I'd
I'm
love to
slightly
be
too
back
old
in
for
high school myself.
ah,
Yeah, I think
high school
I
is high school, but yeah,
we've hit our nostalgia years already, I think.
yeah. Every time it would be people, because I think I've asked this to other guests too about where would they want to go back to in their educational years, and most of them they go all the way from zero. In my case, it was fifth grade, or all the way to the last years of their educational journey, which in our case would have been the International Baccalaureate.
Yeah, I'd be
Uh,
happy going back to high school, not necessarily all the way back, but
I don't know. I'm still thinking about that fifth grade. But yeah, I think we in high school we were so stressed about the final goal, which is just getting over with those exams, doing our best to get the best scores and performing at our top-notch level, that sometimes we forgot to enjoy the process. So probably if I would have had the maturity that I have now and the excitement of the high school years, I think that I would have made myself and obviously our teachers super proud too, because they put in huge amounts of efforts to make sure that we were doing our best uh, in our process. I'm looking at my list of questions and I have none left for you. If there is anything bonus you want to add, mention, ask, whatever comes to your mind, you're free to do it. If not, you're free to just
I
address your
mean,
final.
I just want to reinforce what I said earlier that it's okay not to know what you want when you finish high school,
Mhm.
because there was that pressure of, oh, what do I do now? You have to fix something. It's okay not to know. It's okay to be unsure. It's okay to realize down the line that maybe what you picked isn't good for you. And at least in my case, happiness is more important than money. So don't 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 think in the truly long term. That's
Yeah.
not something you actually realize when you're 18 or 19. You think you do, but you don't.
Well, I think what you say is totally valid, and you did highlight the part in which it's important to not run after the money. Yet you started your own firm, Vote Film, and if you wouldn't have been so passionate about your journey and what you like doing in life, I don't think you would have got to this point. So whenever you feel it's don't stress about the money. Yes, it's important, but the most important part is to love your job, and money will follow
Exactly.
sooner or later. So thank you so much for joining in, for sharing your experience, for letting people know that it's okay not to feel safe with your choices, or feeling confused about the choices you made. It's okay to stop when you feel like you want to stop and start over. It's there's the only person that counts in this journey is you, and I think your journey highlighted that part too, and put a huge spotlight on personal self uh, development and discovery. And in your case, I think it was more than discovery, it was a rediscovery, because you already had those things hidden under different layers of the society's expectations and the family's expectations and your friends' expectations. So always make sure to live up to your own expectations. And whenever, if you don't do that, even if you don't do that, don't put pressure on yourself. Just
You
chill.
put it much better than I could. Yes. Yes, I agree.
I really tried, and I'm really happy that we got to do this. So thank you again for joining, and I hope that this conversation was really helpful for our students, or not only our students, our teachers and smaller generations and people that have graduated Mark Twain or other schools and maybe felt as lost or not inspired. I hope this conversation got you inspired to start your week, because yes, this is airing on every Monday evening. I hope this will put a small or big smile on your faces, and thank you for taking the time to follow us, and thank you again, Tudor, for joining us. And I hope your journey keeps on being as wild and as fun as your first day at work, and
It usually
inspiring.
is. It usually is. It usually is. I'm gonna have a fun summer, I believe, with my current project, which I'm not allowed to speak of.
Well, you're not allowed to speak about it, but we're all excited and looking forward for you to share more of your work on your profiles and on your work pages. And we are once again thanking you for joining in. And I think this is our moment to say goodbye to our followers. Everyone stay safe, stay sane, and stay happy, and keep on rocking.
See you, everyone.
Bye bye, and thank you, thank you, thank you.